Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Virgo Weekly Tarot Bite reading for the week of August 14th through the 20th. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot reading for Soul Illumination. So hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lauren. This reading is meant to be a quick look at the energy for the week ahead for the sign of Virgo. Now, we're going to be basing the reading on the two themes that came up in the general collective reading for the week, which was posted on Sunday if you'd like to view that. And the two themes were never-ending story and the 10 of Pentacles. So how that really came through in the reading was the never-ending story. This week we are all really being asked to take a look at closing the book in our life series of books on a version of ourselves where we told ourselves that we were not capable of achieving or bringing something into our experience based out of wounds of the past or fear. So this would be like saying, I am someone who will never have a supportive, loving relationship because of all of my past wounded relationships. I am never going to be someone who is physically fit and fitness focused because I've always struggled with my weight and I have never been able to keep a consistent fitness or health routine. I am always going to be the person who gets let go from a job because of something. I will never be the person who gets to have a job that they love and is fulfilling. Whatever it is, there's something in our life that we continue to bring forward. And this is that week where we get that chance, a very empowered chance to write the next book in our series. Not a chapter, but a whole new book where we, as the hero, get to be a new version of ourselves. So when I gave everybody homework in the collective reading, which was to this week, if you can have a point of meditation, that by the end of the week, get to that place where you write the first line, the first sentence on the first page of that new book that you're opening, and the last line on the last page of that book, and get excited to see how that story is going to unfold for you as you move from the first line all the way towards that last line. And why do I say that? Because we all have a new long-term vision for ourselves coming into view with the 10 of Pentacles. And that's going to be based on this new version of ourselves, this more empowered version of ourselves that we're really stepping into in this next cycle. So Virgo, we're going to see what this means for you. What do all my Virgos need to know about what is the story that's closing? What have you maybe told yourself you weren't capable of? Okay, so we have the 9 of Wands. That's a card of burnout, exhaustion. It's one, too, that can be kind of a defensive, a place of being in a defensive posture where, yeah, it's been a little difficult, Virgo. 5 of Wands and the 9 of Wands. There's a sense here of having to kind of put on the brave face for others for quite some time in the middle of chaos. The 5 of Wands can be that kind of competitive back and forth. It can also be where there's just a lot going on. This can be where you live in a home life where everybody has a say. And the 9 of Wands really speaks to, again, that level of burnout. But like what I was saying before was there's also a sense where we can get to kind of a defensive posture with the 9 of Wands where we are, because of how much we've gone through and because of how much we've had to kind of, go through these battles or go through these points of chaos and kind of come out the victor, that we're standing there kind of like ready for that next person to come up, and we're wary of them. Like, are you going to be the one that's going to drag me into the next melee? Are you going to be the one that's coming to fight me? I'm exhausted. I'm tired from all of this, like the weary, wounded warrior complex coming through. Are you going to be the one to challenge me next? And yet there's a sense here of, I think, finally being able to release that sense of having to be on guard, having to maybe be the one who puts up, or could even be that maybe there's a feeling within your life experience that has just felt kind of chaotic, kind of competitive. This could be where you've been in a work environment that's highly competitive and you've pushed yourself and pushed yourself and pushed yourself to succeed. And this is saying, you don't have to do that anymore, Virgo. This next cycle can be one that feels a lot more fluid, a lot more in flow and in alignment with yourself. And it's one where you can put your defenses down. It's very difficult to go through life when we have such a strong barrier or boundary between ourself and our life experience, where we are becoming very much aware of everything in our experience as something that might come in to wound or hurt us, or that might drag us into a fight. And so there's a sense here of really getting to that place of letting that cycle go, where maybe it was difficult. You were kind of in the middle of a lot of things happening. Again, it could be that you were always in a very stressful work environment, or it could be that you were in a very stressful home environment, even where, again, you were in the middle of a lot going on. But there's a sense here that this is the next chapter, next book in your series, is where you're not the wounded, weary warrior anymore. So let's go ahead here and see what the Ten of Pentacles, what is this long-term vision for yourself coming into view, this new expanded vision? The Ten of Pentacles, again, really speaks to that legacy, that ultimate achievement in the physical of what we want to create for ourselves. Now we have the moon coming in, which is interesting because that kind of shows a lack of clarity. It shows a lack of clarity, but it also shows an inner intuitive calling, a pull towards the new. With the Eight of Cups, this speaks to understanding in the moment what no longer emotionally calls to you. The Eight of Cups is where we have invested a lot of emotional energy into something, and where at this point, if we continue to invest in it, it's no longer emotionally supportive of us. Instead, it's just draining. So there is this sense of knowing what you want to walk away from, but not knowing not having that quite the clarity as to where you want to walk towards with the moon coming in. And yet I think for many of you, there's this sense of a feeling, because the moon also asks us, can we walk a path on faith? And you see here that it looks like a crawdad or a lobster being called up out of the depths of the sea to make a journey on dry land. It's being called out of its comfort zone, and it's being asked if it can feel and hear that call, the pull of the moon, pull through the intuition, and can it walk a path on faith? And there's a sense here of you feel a call towards the new. You know it's time to walk away from, but the way is unclear, and that might be preventing you from really wanting to take those first steps into the new. And yet, when we know what no longer emotionally suits us, and we feel that call to finally say, no matter how much more time and energy I put into this, it's never going to give me a return on my investment. Whether this is, and we think about it in relation to where you felt burned out, where you've kind of had to battle for quite some time. Now, this might be, again, where maybe even that previous chapter, there was a sense of you always were going to be the victim. Maybe that was a life story you brought forward of, I will always be the one that has to bear the whole burden of my family's past pain, my family's dysfunction. I will always be the person who has to come in and fix a business's problems. I have to get in there and get into the chaos, and I can't clock out at 5. I have to be there to make sure everybody's okay. Because Virgo, you are the person who does that. You're the one that wants to make sure that everybody's okay. But I think now you get to move into you get to move towards what your heart is truly calling you to do. Because again, the Eight of Cups speaks to your heart is no longer in whatever this was. And whatever this was is directly connected to a level of burnout, a level of craziness and chaos, or highly competitive environments. And it's saying you get to move, you're feeling that call towards the change. It's time to lean into that. And that's what's going to finally bring into view, I think, this new expanded Ten of Pentacles vision, this legacy for yourself. It's like, oh my gosh, the clouds are parting, and I didn't even realize that by walking away from this, I'm opening myself up to a whole another. It's almost like the clouds were only going to part so you could see this amazing thing that's on the other side of them. But it was waiting for you to make that decision. It was waiting for you to write that first line of the new book. Okay. And sometimes that first line is the hardest one to write. That's one of those things where if you are a writer, you tried to write, a lot of times writers will say that they have that writer's block because they just can't get that first initial, they're staring at the blinking cursor on their computer screen, or they're just sitting there tapping their pen on the paper because that first line just won't come. If you can get that first line, I think just like many writers, all of a sudden the rest will just come through, that new story, that new vision for yourself. It's almost like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to admit to myself that this is what I need to walk away from. But now that I have, the clouds are parting, the way is clearing, and I can finally see that, what's waiting for me on the other side. And the story that I'm leaving behind as I walk away from, again, what has no longer served me. Or what no longer serves me. Okay, so we have 3 cards coming up here as your final message for the week. We have, I love it, Antelope Spirit, Life is Speeding Up, number 2. Very much so. I get that feeling it's time to go. We have Koi Fish Spirit, There is Always Enough, number 36, breaking down to the number 9, which is all about the endings of a major cycle, the lessons learned in it. But I love that there's a sense that there's always enough, because for some of you, this might be where you can no longer support something in your life, but there's that fear of, but if I walk away from this job, or I walk away from, this could be like being in a highly stressful competitive industry for a long time. You can't keep doing it. It's no longer fulfilling. And yet there's that fear of, if I walk away from this, what if I can't, meet my bills? I can't pay my bills because I'm not making the same amount of money. And this is saying there's always enough. And I think with Life is Speeding Up, there's new opportunities coming in for you. And then we have time to collaborate with number 1, Ant Spirit. I love that, because there's a sense that there are others coming in who are going to help you with this. We never go through our life experience alone. So this could be a romantic partner that's going to say, okay, like you want to leave that highly competitive job? Well, then I'm going to pick up the slack on the other side so that you can start to heed the calling in your heart to move towards something else. This could be where maybe there's a business partner that comes in and says, hey, I know you were thinking of, leaving that industry, and do you want to go out and do it together? Something along those lines. So beautiful energy, Virgo. I think it's time. This is, again, a new cycle where many of you are going to be experiencing a sense of putting down that sense of being a victim, or putting down that sense of, I have to be the strong one. I have to be the one that comes in and brings order to chaos. I'm the one that has to bear the burden of going into a highly competitive work environment every day. Whatever it is, it's saying it's time now to put that story up on the shelf, and you get to start a new one where you're much more in flow, where you're heeding your intuition, and you're walking away from anything that no longer emotionally supports you. All right, I will leave it there. I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead, Virgo. If you'd like to book a personal reading, you can click on the link in the description box below to visit my website. Otherwise, the full tarot scope for the month of August is up on my channel if you'd like to view yours. And if you would like to be notified when there are new videos posted like this every week, as well as the monthly readings, you can subscribe to this channel and click on the notification icon. I greatly appreciate it if you would, or if you feel inclined to do so. All right. Have a wonderful week, Virgo. See you next week.